Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Pangea 2018. It has been a while, but we are back and ready to start a new episode. And we meet up first with the Utah Raptors, who are currently not at their nest. See, they are actually moving. The last nest that they had would have made it virtually impossible to lay eggs since it was so open. So, they are looking for a more suitable nest for laying eggs. Now, they actually left earlier this morning to avoid predators since, well, they wouldn't have been awake at that time. So they haven't had a good meal since, well, this morning. Now, that might be about to change as they spy something. This is a very small Dimetrodon, and he is also making his way across the plains. Now, since he is very small, he will be a very easy kill. So they start to move in. Dimetrodon is quite close to the ground, meaning he won't be able to see very well over the tall grass. And Dusty pounces on his prey. But the Dimetrodon won't give up without a fight. He is trying to get a good grip on Dusty's throat, but Dusty is putting up a good fight. But Silver has managed to knock the Dimetrodon over. But because of this, he was knocked a few feet away, giving him a much easier escape. But the Utah Raptors won't give up that easily. The Utah Raptors are very fast, and for a dinosaur, they are quite smart as well. The Dimetrodon will make for a sufficient meal. The Stegosaurus herd is actually moving as well. Their old home became too overgrown with foliage. The plants were growing faster than they could eat, and soon enough it was overrun by scavengers, so they were forced to leave. And at the moment, they're having a bit of a standoff between another, much smaller Stegosaurus herd. Now, these types of confrontations don't always end peacefully, but this one seems to be going quite well. It appears they've just made friends. In fact, from here, they are probably going to combine herds. After all, there is significant strength in numbers. Now, all of this was happening quite close to where the Utah Raptors were feasting. And, well, they are done with their meal, so they are going to continue across the plains. Here we see a group of sauropods consisting of a Camarasaurus, an Apatosaurus, and a couple Brachiosaurs peacefully feeding at a tree. But as we know, nothing can ever truly be 100% peaceful here on Pangea. This is a juvenile Tyrannosaurus rex, and he is in search of a meal. He spies the Apatosaurus. He thinks it could be a sufficient meal, but he could be in over his head. Nevertheless, he goes for it. He actually lands between two of the sauropods and scares them all away. He is still a bit confused when two familiar faces come by. It is the Utah Raptors, and they have made good progress on their journey. He does not bother them, and they do not bother him. Both of the groups have a very severe lack of energy, so the Tyrannosaurus just walks off. And the Utah Raptors do the same. After a long journey, they have finally made it across the plains to somewhere that they think will be a suitable nest. So, Dusty goes and investigates. He reaches the center. But he smells something unfamiliar. They are on rather high alert when suddenly a figure emerges. Carnotaurus, king of the plains. They are unsure what move to make next, but they are sure of one thing. The Carnotaurus is not very happy to see them. This is his nest after all. Takes a few steps forward. The Utah Raptors are sure of what to do now. Since they have such low energy, the only thing they can do now is run. But the Carnotaurus is quick to follow. seems the sauropods have gone back to grazing, and this gives Dusty and Silver a good idea. They manage to sneak into the brush. Not only did the Carnotaurus lose them, but he also knows not to mess with the sauropods. After all, that could result in a stampede like we saw earlier with the T-Rex. So he has no other choice than to go back to his nest. The Utahraptors' search for a new home will have to continue. It is now quite later in the day, and yet again the Utahraptors have made good progress on their journey. Now, they haven't eaten since they killed that Dimetrodon, which was much earlier today. So they are quite pleased to see the corpse of a Parasaurolophus near this very large pine tree. So they immediately dig in. This feast is quite refreshing, especially after their long venture across the plains. But Dusty notices something by the pine tree. It appears to be a sort of cavern or a nest beneath it. Now, if it's a nest, that can only mean one thing. If there is a nest, then there is something that made it. And the something that made this nest was this Hararosaurus. She is also the one that killed the Parasaurolophus, and she is not very pleased that these two stole her kill. Now, if I'm being honest, it's probably a pretty stupid idea to go up against two fully grown Utahraptors, but Hararosaurus had very strong muscly arms and an extremely strong jaw, making it a pretty fair match. Well, it would be if there was only one Utahraptor, but considering that there are two, and that their energy has just been refilled thanks to the Parasaurolophus, it's not exactly a fair match. So Dusty and Silver aren't worried a bit. The Hararosaurus realizes it's not strong enough to take on both Utahraptors, so it does the only thing it can, and it leaves. With their newfound victory, the Utahraptors realize that they have won not only the food, but also a possible new den. And thus, the Utahraptors' journey is complete. With that being said, I think this is a perfect place to end today's episode. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you will join me in the next episode of Pangea 2018.